Hey guys, this is Dylan
I'm Lydia.
for the second time. Sorry. And we're here for Broken Pictures. That website is www.broken.pictures, no.com. Go check out the website and see what we're doing and maybe hire us out for some stuff. But yeah.
Or don't, since we don't know how to turn a microphone on.
Which is why it's the second time. We filmed, like, we were starting to get into the episode, and I was like, oh, you know what?
A solid 5 minutes of a bunch of crap you didn't want to hear, though, so
Yeah.
no problem.
Talking about swatting flies, and how late it is, and
If
mispronouncing
you're not going
words.
to give any context, don't say it. Because now we're either going to have to go back through it all,
Okay.
or we sound like crazy people.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know if you noticed in the past couple episodes, there's been a couple flies like buzz the lens, and there's been flies landing here and there. And long story short, we live in Northwest Arkansas, and there are a bunch of cow pastures out in the country where we live. And not that all of Northwest Arkansas is cow pastures, but near where we live, there's one. And no matter what we do, no matter how many flies we kill, as soon as we open the door, they come in armies. So, yeah.
No, they crawl in. You said as soon as we open the door, they just fly in armies.
I said they come in armies. I had to make the sound effect because it's cool.
Alrighty then.
Yeah. Anyways, it's late. To give more context to it being late, this is usually how it goes. She gets home from work, get the kids in the bed, and set up and film. But the setup takes takes a while.
So you are going to go back through it all.
Okay. Oh. Excuse me. So yeah. So we're going to change up the format a little bit. I don't know if you've noticed, but Westworld is a little thick on content.
I don't know if you've noticed.
It's an understatement. It's very dense, and we did The Walking Dead season 8.
If it looks like I'm picking my nose, I'm not. I'm itching it.
So yeah, we did The Walking Dead last season and did our little after show, and we've been watching The Walking Dead for a while, and so it was fairly easy to pick up on what was going on and things like that. And but with Westworld, it's a whole different world. Last time I said animal, and she was like, "Say world." So. So yeah. I grew up watching sci-fi, so I'm very familiar with a lot of the elements and I track with a lot of it what's going on, but it's still blowing my mind, and there's a lot that just goes over my head without rewatching and trying to like really look at it. And I enjoy the challenge, which is why I wanted to do this. Lydia, on the other hand,
I mean, I like sci-fi, don't get me wrong. It's one of my favorite genres, but I don't necessarily follow when it comes to time jumping or alternate realities, alternate worlds. It's very confusing to me when you start playing with time because I'm a very cause and effect person, and so when you've got multiple effects from one cause that are happening all at the same time, and in some theories or ways that it works, one cause affects multiple different outcomes, and like it affects it all differently, and then sometimes it only affects this specific timeline differently. It's just really confusing, and you can get really bogged down and stuff like that. And so when it comes to Westworld, when our timeline is so jumpy, it's so confusing, we're already dealing with AI, which is super just thick already, and then you're also throwing in time jumps and a lot of confusing things, and people being uploaded to AI, and like there are just a lot of aspects of it that I don't understand. And so whenever I talk about a lot of these things, it's going to be more so based on less about the plot than it is the actual happenings and what did I say yesterday? What did I call it?
I don't remember.
Darn it.
I'll probably remember in about 10 minutes and then a little bit.
Or after we get done filming. Anyway, a lot of the things that I have to say are just like about the show in general and the happenings and what's going on and stuff like that. Less. Oh, nope, that wasn't it. Anyway, yeah, there's that.
Got it.
How you gonna blow my wish?
My bad. It wasn't actually an eyelash. It was like makeup.
Like mascara or something?
Yeah, whatever the eyelash stuff is. What? Oh, wow.
You have purchased mascara.
There are flies buzzing the lens right now if you don't see that. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to hit you. It's the flies.
He's lying.
Go away, fly. It just landed right on the lens if you didn't see that. That's insane. Like, these are some
like
bold flies.
You are Dolores. Weird. Anyway, like, literally, you've purchased mascara for me before, so don't give me that baloney.
Well, I get eyeshadow and mascara and what is the eyeliner confused. Sometimes. Yeah. Anyways, the flies are actually part of our show.
They're props.
Yeah, they're props because hey, this is Westworld. And how do you like our fancy new shirts that we just picked up? Hot Topic was having a sale. So I cashed in a little bit.
A little bit.
I got like a t-shirt for every show that I like.
And only 2 of them were for me. He purchased 6 shirts.
What?
3 both times you went.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So I got a Stranger Things shirt, I got a Westworld shirt, and a Black Panther shirt. So I got 3.
I got a Westworld shirt. And a
Office.
Beetlejuice. Oh!
The Office and the Beetlejuice.
Okay, so half and half. Bam. Oh, sorry. That was my slipper. Oh, well. Okay, get on with it.
All right, so yeah. So we're changing up the format because it's so dense.
Dear Jesus, we're not even to the show yet.
So yeah, we're changing up the format, and we're gonna do just like the top 3, top 5, whatever things that we see in the episode that we like, and we'll talk about it from that angle instead of just kind of like moseying through what we thought of the episode or whatever. We're trying to get more focused here. So
tell us if you like the new format, or if you like us just rambling around like something, I don't even know what rambles.
Pasture.
No, I feel like they mosey.
Well, I did say mosey a minute ago.
Well, we ramble.
Yeah, I ramble a lot.
I feel like there's a band that rambles.
You talking about Ramble On, the song?
No. That's a good one, though.
Yeah.
Anyway, ramble in a good direction.
Okay, so I keep looking up here because I've got the monitor on my TV screen so that I can see. Sometimes the recording cuts off in the middle.
Or we run out of time like we're going to if we don't hurry up.
Yes, sorry about that. Pop there. All right, so, yeah. Number 1 thing. Sorry, flies are dive bombing my head right now. This is nuts. Yeah, so number 1 thing is Bernardo. And I'm calling him Bernardo because at this point, not really sure if he's Bernard or if he's Arnold, because we find out very quickly that in the opening scene that Bernardo is the one being interrogated or questioned or examined instead of Dolores. And it's a scene very similar to what they did with James Delos, where they're questioning him, asking him these questions for fidelity. And and Dolores says no, that's not what he said. He said this instead, and didn't question whether he had the agency or whatever, however she phrased it. And it's the same scene that we saw play out, not play out as far from episode one, and even in the season two trailer, we saw where Bernard was telling Dolores that sometimes she scared him and that she was getting too smart, too fast, and so this time it seems to me that that we've got Bernard, and even we've talked about this before, where Bernard went with Charlotte into the secret bunker, and they had to use their DNA to get in the door, and Bernard grabbed the door, and it let him in. So it looks like this whole time, even though Bernard didn't realize it, that he is the embodiment of Arnold, and Ford figured out how to make that happen. Even though Delos had been working on it forever, Ford is the real genius, and he'd kind of done it under their nose with, taking it further. It seems like.
And as much as I kind of can track with that, I don't think that that's quite the case yet. Because what he referenced, I forgot what episode you said that was in. If you turn on the subtitles while you're watching Westworld, sometimes they can be a little confusing and there's some grammatical errors in there, but a lot of times the names are very telling. And so in the episode that he's referencing, I think you said episode 2, it says Arnold, and so episode 1, we're meant to believe that this is the first line of questioning so that they have the reference point. And then we see it this past episode, episode 6, and it says Bernard. And so to me, it's still very separate. Because when William was talking to Delos, to James Delos, he didn't make it sound like it was a whole different person, like they didn't rename him, they didn't do any of this stuff. And I mean, it could be different because Delos and Ford are two different things, two different companies almost.
Yeah, at odds with each other.
Yeah, but then how Dolores phrased it was very odd to me. She said he didn't say that. Not you didn't say that, not that's not how it went. She said he didn't say that. And so to me, even she can't separate that it's still the same person, because I don't think that they are yet. I think that they're more testing something else, and maybe they're getting there, but I just don't think that they're necessarily there yet. And I also, real quick, thought it was very, very harsh how she said it. Whenever William is letting Delos kind of realize what's going on, he kind of slips in the paper and shows him the script. But Dolores is just like, bruh, that ain't what he said. I'm just going to bomb it on you. All this information instead of kind of feeding it to you and letting you figure it out on your own. I'm just going to be like, boop, there it is. And so I thought this scene was very interesting, almost polar opposites in how they handled it, which is how Delos and Ford are. They're completely different. Anyway, that's my 2 cents about that.
Yep. So that plays into a lot with one of the major theories of season 2, is that the AI situation is that it's not just, if you don't know the difference between an android and a robot is all machine, an android is part human and machine. That's sci-fi lore or whatever. But
clarifying question. So by android, you mean it's got like human organs that are machine made, or it's got some form of like human intelligence in it? Like, what do you mean? Because like,
not artificial intelligence, like actual, like literal, some human, literal, some robot.
But do you mean organs? Because
not necessarily.
Okay, because like some of the Westworld ones, like we saw that, what's her name, Akane's daughter, I can't remember, had a heart. And so pretend that this was not Westworld and we're just talking about the heart thing. Does that make her an android, or is she still just AI?
Well, the heart was probably artificial, so she's still a robot.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So,
Mhm.
like, even if the organs seem legit,
Right.
they're still man-made.
Correct.
Like, they're still created, and so
Mhm.
they're still AI.
Right.
Okay, gotcha. Continue.
Yeah. So yeah, I forgot where I was going with the. Oh yeah, so yeah, that confirms a big theory with what was going on, and it had already confirmed it with the whole James Delos scene, but more specifically now with what's going on with Bernard/Arnold. The theory was that Ford was trying to bring him back, or had brought him back, or maybe even Ford himself, which we'll get into later in this episode. They got into at the end of their episode. Um, yeah, that's confirmed.
Yep.
So you move on to number 2.
Yep.
So Dark Teddy.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. So yeah, Dolores has messed with his insides and his brain and his intentions and the way he operates, and now he's
the
stone cold.
opposite of Stephen Ogg's character,
Yeah.
literally reversed it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So
we're just big fans of Stephen Ogg.
Yeah, from The Walking Dead. And if you don't know, The Walking Dead has some. I forgot to hit on this. Had some big news hit today. So if you hadn't heard about that, I'm sure you have because it's everywhere now. Go back and watch my video and kind of get some insight on what's happening and what could possibly happen in that realm. So back to Dark Teddy. Dolores seems to be having some doubts about making Teddy so dark because he walked up and he's boom, 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 kills the guy that they're interrogating, and we'll figure it out along the way. And she's kind of like, whoa.
Even whenever she was playing the piano at the saloon and he comes in, he's like, I thought you were trying to get going. And she's like, well, no. And he's like, bro, let's go.
Mm-hmm.
And she's just like, oh, hold up, Teddy.
Mm-hmm.
Hold up, and she's obviously got reservations throughout the entire episode.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I think just to touch on this, the similarities between Maeve and Dolores last episode seemed like they were both so hardcore and distant, so far from being human. Yet this episode are closer to compassion, and Dolores having reservations about taking things so far, and then Maeve also deciding to give people a choice, even if it leads to their death, which is very human.
Which I disagreed with that because I felt like she always kind of gave her friends a choice, but not necessarily her foe. And so I don't think that necessarily that's changed. I think that she's still that, because she's gonna kill to get to her daughter if she has to.
Yeah, and maybe that hasn't changed, but last episode they made it seem like she left Hector and Armistice for dead.
Right, which it seems like now it was just some part of a plot we didn't see.
Mm-hmm.
So, because they weren't super upset to see her. They weren't just like, "Oh, could you leave us there?" or anything like that. They were just like, right. "Oh, cool, you're back."
Well, except that Maeve did fiddle with Hector's programming to make him more loyal to her.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter. You can still be as loyal as you want when somebody blindsides you and leaves you for dead. That doesn't necessarily.
Oh, yeah, it's a whole different level, but still, it's making people do things.
I guess we'll see.
Against their will.
But Dark Teddy, talk about the bullet thing.
Yeah. So and we see Dark Teddy show up, and we're not quite sure who it is, and he bends down to pick up the can of milk that Dolores usually dropped. And you saw in season 1, every time she was introduced to a new townsperson or a new guest, and Teddy would pick up the milk and hand it back to her, and that's how they start their storyline. Well, this time he reached right over the can of milk and picks up a bullet, and I thought that was a pretty good visual as to where he's at right now.
Plus, when we see the bullet again later, he's giving it to the programmer guy that they kidnapped early on that we haven't seen since. They're just toting him around in their back pocket. I mean, like, genuinely, we haven't seen him at all.
Yeah. Well, we saw him last episode when he reprogrammed Teddy,
except for we didn't even worry about him whenever Daddy-O was sick. We waited till we had Bernard. You know, like, he could have done the same thing. Anyway.
But he's no Bernard. But still, they didn't even try. Yeah.
Which they did find Abernathy at the same time that they found Bernard. Anyway.
Yeah.
We see the bullet again later whenever he's giving it to the programmer and saying, you better use it quick.
Yeah, this is the end of my mercy.
Dang, Teddy. Saw your role.
Yeah, because up until that point...
Teddy ain't full of stuffing no more. Like a teddy bear.
Yeah. And when Teddy walked up and just killed that guy straight out, I mean, you knew immediately that this is a different type of Teddy. He's not soft and fluffy like he was before. And from that point, as well as we're starting to figure out, or Teddy's starting to figure Dolores out, and the programmer even told Dolores that there might be some side effects without rebooting Teddy to making all these large adjustments. And I don't know if we're seeing side effects yet, but Teddy seems like he's resentful towards Dolores.
For sure.
And I think it's looking like he might eventually turn on her, because he starts calling her out on, I never thought that I would leave this place, but I guess you changed that about me too.
Which brings me back to a point that I made in an earlier episode that we did, or maybe just Dylan and I were talking about. Whenever Bernard finds everybody in the valley that got flooded and everything, I thought that Bernard said he killed everybody. I thought that he said Teddy killed everybody. And
no,
that
he said I killed him.
I know, but I think that Teddy really did do it. I think that Teddy has it out for Dolores because she's a backstabbing little turdy head, and so he's gonna turn on her and kill everybody for good. He didn't just kill everybody so that they could be brought back to life. He killed everybody. He wiped everybody's stuff off. I don't know if he got to Bernard and made Bernard do it, how he did it. That's what I think happened.
The next thing, as she was talking about earlier with the captions, sometimes they're very revealing, and it was either a consistent typo or it was a spoiler that they didn't mean to put out there.
Or we're completely on the wrong track and HBO's caption person just doesn't know what they're doing. If you have more inside information about that, please let us know, because I don't want to be going down rabbit trails that don't even belong anywhere.
We have
they're just accidents.
Yeah, we have DirecTV, and it might be their system for captions. I don't know.
But it's normally pretty good on everything else.
So yeah, when we thought it was pretty interesting, the whole scene where Elsie and Bernard are going into the cradle and talking about the cradle.
Walking down the railroad tracks.
Yeah, that whole scene, the captions kept referring to what?
Referring?
Yeah, Bernarding. The captions kept referring to Elsie as Hale, and we know that's Charlotte's last name. Elsie, we looked it up. Elsie's last name is Hughes, so it wasn't an Elsie Hughes thing. So that might be a slight confirmation of another fan theory, which is what they call the cats in the cradle theory, which is that we talked a little bit about it last week, where Bernard is in the cradle being interrogated. And that's why we're seeing all these different instances of things happening and happening different ways, because the cradle itself, we know, is a computer program that basically runs the park, but it holds all the guests, or not all the guests, but all the host memories, and basically all the hosts. Elsie referred to it as like a hive mind type situation where they all live basically in there.
All their brains are kept there.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, but also it runs simulations, and it runs which refers to the title of the episode, like Blank Space or something, which is basically it's one of the videos I watched was talking about how it is a physics term where all the scenarios are playing out at once at the same time. All different ones, like layers, like parallel worlds almost. They're all happening at the same time, but playing out differently. And it's running all these scenarios and simulations at the same time to come to a certain determination or find out what'll work and what won't work. And so this theory says that Bernard is in there and they're searching his mind for answers, and that's why when we see him from the very beginning, they always seem to be questioning him or like
reading his reactions, not looking for what he's looking at or really listening to his answers so much as looking at his reaction to questions, his reactions to answers and things like that.
Yeah.
And so it's very possible as well that this theory is kind of leading somewhere, because something that I thought about that I want to rewatch the episode and kind of look at that I just thought about is that they're walking down the railroad tracks, which leads us to think that it was when Bernard found Elsie and unraveled her, whatever, got the gun, and it makes us think that. But whenever Charlotte and Bernard were traveling as well, it's very possible that they could have picked up a shotgun and then they're traveling around. Like it could have been Hale, and he's remembering it differently. You know, there's
and
so many
she's
possible
posing
scenarios.
as Elsie, and it could be that she's posing as Elsie to because Elsie is somebody that he trusts,
right?
And he wouldn't trust Hale the same,
right?
So she's interrogating him as Elsie in the cradle.
So I think the cats in the cradle theory is really onto something. That's just me.
Yeah, and like one of the things that it mentioned was like in the very beginning in the first episode when he comes up and Carl is talking to him and he finishes Carl's sentence and there's really no reaction there. It just, and it's almost like he's catching on to something, but they're pretending like it's not happening. So
like he's played it out multiple times before. Is the only way he would have known that.
Right. So that was interesting. That might be something, it might not be. Okay, so the fourth thing we thought was a pretty big deal was the whole situation with William, the man in black, and his daughter Emily Grace. She shows up, and he apparently has been ignoring her the entire time. He's convinced that she's a host that Ford has built to kind of mess with him.
Something I just thought about, when did we see her change clothes?
She walked up in those clothes.
Exactly. From Westworld. From being kidnapped. Jumping off a cliff from a tiger.
Yeah. So yeah,
in
where did she find all that stuff?
In Westworld clothes.
There's a fly on the lens again.
In Westworld clothes. Captured by the Ghost Nation. Runs off. And then just boop. She got a horse. She got guns.
Yeah. So
she in full get up Westworld. Get up like
she's been down to the same bunker that
some fishy
Maeve
going on.
Yeah. So yeah, she is not everything she seems to be, and we know that because when they're having a heart to heart, and she tells him, "Oh well, I got this invitation." What?
And she said something about Charlotte Hale, asking her to come out here. Remember, she said she shoved something up her butt.
Well, she was talking about the party where all the board members came out to.
Oh.
That she was invited to that.
Oh.
But she decided to go to Westworld instead because she liked the elephants. Remembered them from when she was a kid. But we know that's not the case because she was there before all that went down. And before the revelries thing. But also, she was looking for something in that notebook that she opened up. We saw that little, what looked like possibly a tech-looking infinity symbol or something like that. But it was the same symbol that Bernard saw when he was cracking the code on Abernathy on the tablet he had. So there's some key there that she knows something about that she's not telling, and that's why she's really there. And it's not just to save her dear old dad necessarily. She is trying to get him out of there,
I don't
but
think
for
she
maybe
is.
not the same reason.
Yeah, I think she's trying to get information out of there.
Mm,
Maybe she needs Delos to be like passed down to her or something.
mm.
You know, like maybe the company is in somebody else's name, and so she needs the company.
I don't know.
Maybe.
She's got something going on, something fishy about her, and
Mhm.
because and apparently William knows not to trust her because he straight up
Left
yeah
her,
he Irished out before she even woke up.
which was smart.
Hmm.
Even though I saw it coming a mile away. So,
Yeah, and it made him look like a huge ass, which we know he is already, and she just called him out on that. But there's
I mean, I was
reason.
fine with that part, but just like based on HBO and just Westworld, all of this, like, really, you literally don't let us think that we have anything coming or like know anything about the show,
Hmm.
and then that was predictable from 50 years away. It was. I didn't like it. You know, it was almost too obvious. It was like, of course he left her.
Yeah.
You know, it would have surprised the heck out of me if he had stayed.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. Anyway.
Yep. So, Emily Grace, not who she claims to be. Hope to see more on that in the next few episodes. And then the number 5 thing that we saw, we thought was obviously the big deal, was Ford at the piano at the very end. Ford in the cradle. Ford is running the cradle, and it seems to me that the brain, the red brain thing that Bernard, while he was under Ford's control and attacked the bunker that had Delos in it, the red brain thing that he took was Ford, and he took it back and put it into the cradle, and that now Ford's consciousness is running the cradle, and he's living in the cradle. That's why when Elsie was looking, or no, it wasn't Elsie, it was
Hale.
yeah, it was Hale and those the Delos people. When the bad GI Joes arrived, they and then they were telling him, it looks like the program, it looks like the cradle is running fine. That's the problem, is that there is no problem. And they were like, well, what are you talking about? Well,
that's the dumbest thing I've ever done.
Yeah. So the reason is just like when Bernard gets inside of the cradle and he sees everything running as usual, everything looks normal. And it seems like that's a facade that Ford is putting up in order to make the cradle think that everything's okay, even though everything's chaos on the outside.
Which, for the people who, like me, who don't really track with that kind of thing, this is where I get lost. Like, what do you mean somebody's brain is
Like
in
it's like a clone.
program?
Yeah, it's a clone of his
making
consciousness.
Choices. I don't comprehend. So, if you're like me, the interesting part about all of that is, yeah, that's cool, that's great and everything. I thought it was neat that at the very beginning of the episode we premise it, or we kind of are shown into it with Dolores playing the piano. And then the very last thing we see is Ford playing the piano. Mm-hmm. Knowing that, like, he is pulling all the strings. Still. Piano strings.
Haha.
Get it? There's a fly on the thing.
Go away, fly.
So I thought that was cool. We see Ford at the end. We saw Dolores at the beginning. And kind of the separation of that. Like, Dolores is a robot. She's gained sentience and whatever, all this stuff, but she's still a robot. And Ford is not. You know, and just like the parallels between all of that, and kind of just really rounded out what the show was about. What it is about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But if Ford's brain, if his consciousness is now inside of a robot brain, then he's basically become programmed. So he's become like Neo, like the Matrix, where he has become one with the program.
I don't really understand the Matrix either. Speaking of, I think that this is a Matrix type thing where they're all plugged in. Like, ain't no way. At the end of the day, they go boop, pause everything, redo some boards that people shot up, and recreate all of it. You trying to tell me that if I dig a hole one day as a guest, and we've seen in the past season where how they pause and come clean everybody's bodies up and refix them and stuff like that. You're trying to tell me they do that every night, and then they say they gonna have filled up that pothole that I dug the day before? That don't make any sense. There was a whole Mount Kilimanjaro in there. That's crazy.
No, if it was your storyline, then they would let you finish your storyline before they made adjustments. So not every night.
I can get that. But you're trying to tell me on an island, there are like 6 different worlds with mountains and ecosystems all their own. One's snowing, one's the desert.
That's the sci-fi of it.
No.
Well, it's far enough in the future. It's far enough in the future where they're creating artificial intelligence. We saw last season when Ford was talking to who's the lady that was over it that was with
Deborah,
Bernard.
Denise or whatever, the guy they strangled. I mean the girl.
Yeah, that he had the Bernard host.
I think her name was Denise.
No, maybe I don't remember. When her and Ford were having their little exchange in the open air restaurant that she went to when she was a little kid, we saw the I forget what they're called, the things that change the landscape, the big machines.
Yeah, but still, like, that doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
Well, I mean, we have huge earth movers now where we can basically do the same thing, just not on the same scale.
I get moving earth. Mountains are not just piles of dirt.
True.
They're tectonic plates that are moving and doing this number right here. Okay. And like it just does not compute.
Maybe before they opened the park and they were building Shogun World, they built the atmosphere for it first, and with their own Mount Kilimanjaro.
So you're trying to tell me that each thing is like in its own little bubble, its own little geo atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
Do you realize how that would play with Earth's actual atmosphere?
Not necessarily. Not if it was in a bubble.
You trying to tell me that bubble got its own sun? Because Westworld and Rajworld and what was the other place? Shogun World don't all have sun at the same time.
Sure they do. Why wouldn't they?
They're on different hemispheres. You trying to like
the
they're in such a bubble? Are you like it's like
it wouldn't matter?
Hold on, the thing where they kill people, Hunger Games. Like it's its own like Hunger Games type thing where you can't even tell when the real sunshine is out. Potentially,
because they have talked about climate control and things like that.
I guess I can get that a little bit more. Okay. But still, I don't think it is. I think it's a Matrix type thing where they're all plugged in. It just don't make sense. Plus, like, when you're talking, you got samurai swords over here. Like, it's one thing to make a bullet, like, not damage people, like, programmed to not hurt somebody, but a samurai sword, it's got an actual blade on it.
Well, they were talking about how Shogun World was for the people that wanted more danger and things like that, which, to me, why wouldn't William just go to Shogun World if he wanted all this to be real in the first place? But unless he was just loving him some Westworld.
I think it's about something else. I think like the maze, the door, all of that is in Westworld, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And like to him it's about something bigger, not necessarily just more, you know, like the realisticness of it.
Yeah, what makes Westworld so important? Why is it?
Yeah, I think like the door, the maze, all that extra stuff that comes along with it. Like I think that it's a Matrix type thing because it doesn't make sense to me that literally blades. I don't know.
Which kind of leads into another point that you were making with the cradle, that you think multiple people are being interrogated, not just Bernard.
I think Ashley Stubbs is in there because we see so many different timelines for him. Like he's captured, and then he's not, and then he's all beat up, and then he's not, and then he's with Hale, and he's not. He knows information. He's not. Like it seems like he's in it too, and they're trying to get him to put pieces together as well, which is why he's on the beach, and which is why he's not at all fazed by seeing Bernard wash up on the beach. And I didn't feel like Stubbs knew that Bernard was AI. So why would he, or android, whichever he is, like why would he not be asking if he's okay and needs food and water and here, let's get you cleaned up, if he didn't know that. So I think that Stubbs is in the simulation as well, and just he had to have known more information at different times, I just think he's in there too. In the thing that they're questioning him. And maybe it wasn't even Bernard. Maybe they only made it Bernard because they're trying to trick him into thinking that he knows him and that he knows information so that it's not confidential. If it was Dolores, he wouldn't be giving information like that to them, because of their clearance or whatever. Maybe it's Teddy. Maybe it was someone he knew was AI, but not someone he trusted enough to say things in front of him. So they made it Bernard so that he could say whatever he wanted to in front of him. He's the top dog of security.
Yeah, but like he said this episode, he didn't really know what was going on.
Surely he knows something that's going on. You try and tell me the head of security.
Yeah, and what was up with Akecheta telling? Yeah, I couldn't think of it earlier. Telling him, something to the effect of, when you're gone, the last thing that you remembered is your last memory, or something. I can't remember what it was.
We'll have to look it up because that seems important.
Yeah. But also that with Ford being in the cradle, that explains how he's able to interrupt a host's just jump right into a host and talk to the man in black out of the blue and keep him on track. And he knows what's going on, when and where and how and everywhere. And also with Ghost Nation, it's possible that now that the Ghost Nation doesn't seem to be functioning as they were before, now they seem to be collecting people and dropping information on people like they did with Stubbs, and even though they let him go for whatever reason, and his interaction with Maeve, where Maeve thought that they were there to attack, but he was trying to collect her and bring her somewhere, telling her that you must go with us. Our paths are the same. So there's a whole different thing that's going on with the Ghost Nation right now that seems to be driven by Ford instead of their original storylines, narratives. And it's also a nice parallel that it's just kind of like, that it is Native Americans and the way they're perceived versus how they were or are. But yeah, that's my cue. So that's it for us. Those are the top 5 things that we noticed we liked about the episode.
Top 5.
Yeah. So don't forget to keep tuning in, like, share, subscribe, and keep watching Westworld and keep watching our show BrokenWorld. And check us out on Facebook. Check us out on Twitter and Instagram. And also signed up for Patreon. That seems to be everywhere I look, so I was just looking into it, and so now we're on Patreon. That's going to be Broken Pictures, no space. And so yeah, if you'd like to see more videos, that would give us the opportunity to spend more time delving into this and making more videos and doing more of what we love, creating. And so if you support us, then we appreciate it. And go check out the different levels, the things you can get for different levels of support there. And yeah, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time. This is Dylan.
And I'm Leah.
Peace.
That sounded like I said Leah. Lydia. Lydia.
Lydia.
Lydia.
All right, yeah. See ya.
I got flies on my head.
Peace.
Don't come in fly.